Officials who've been charged with serious crimes cannot stand for any position in the party. The decision was strengthened by the party's NEC last week. This after the election of Mpumalanga's Mandla Msibi and former eThekwini Mayor Sandile Swana. The ANC is gearing up for provincial conferences in July. That's ahead of the elective conference in December. Now, joining me now is political analyst Sandile Swana to unpack this a bit further. Mr. Swana, good morning and thank you very much for your time. Now, last week, the ANC, as I've said in that intro, clarified or tightened its step-aside policy. But it seems this matter is far from being settled because we now have heard that some branch members are threatening to deal with it at the policy conference. But the question is, if the intention is to make sure their candidates stand in the current conferences, then dealing with the policy a bit later around June or July would certainly be of no benefit, or at least from where many are standing. Where do you stand on this matter?
Yes. It is very difficult, and I think those branches that want to deal with it in the policy conference are probably correct, because remember that out of that process, there could be a clarification of the minimum that is required for you to be asked to step aside, which I think is also at this stage, from a national perspective, not just from an ANC perspective, it's a little bit unfair. Because, for instance, the people who are listed in the Zondo Commission documents, who may have caused even more financial and economic harm to South Africa, are not being asked to step aside. People who have committed offenses like tablet Dlamini of perjury and other things, which may not have so much economic and financial impact in billions, may be asked to step aside, etc., etc. So the documents of National Treasury, SIU, the Zondo Commission, people who are there probably need to be put on the list of a step aside one way or the other. And also, then if they are then able to change the processes by which people step aside, other people that they want to nominate and elect, they can still be nominated and elected in the December conference.
You just clarify that for us. You said that those that wouldn't be able to stand now, whether in the REC or even in the provincial conference, you're saying that in December?
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that you remember that you can be nominated from the floor even in a national conference. Let's say the conference is in December. Mid-year, there are other conferences where this issue is then clarified, that maybe you may be eligible by that time, because the issue here is to foreclose the national and provincial elections. That is the issue, and those outstanding regional conferences. So they want to prevent people from being nominated into the national executive who are on a step aside. So if that issue is resolved before the step-aside resolution, then people may be nominated to stand nationally, again, depending what the resolution may be.
But we're taking it nationally now. If we just had to confine ourselves to the province and work our way in this conversation, that if we're dealing with regional conferences and we go to the province here, there might be those that would have wanted to stand, branch members have lobbied them, but as it stands now, it's not retrospective, this refinement of the policy, but as it stands now, if you are on a step aside, you cannot avail yourself. If you do, you would be suspended. So meaning those individuals cannot stand. And this can only be ventilated after their conferences would have passed. So what does it mean for them that they will clarify this matter later on in the year, as you say, because there are a lot of ambiguities. But of what benefit would it be to them if it's only clarified after their conferences have passed?
Yeah, for those people who are in the region and the provinces who want to contest positions there, they are going to lose out. I think they've got a 99% chance of losing out. I don't see how they can circumvent that. So their aim will not be to circumvent that. Their aim will be somewhere else.
So those lose out. Then, I want to talk about this whole conversation, particularly around the ambiguity. I know many sought to attribute the nomination and election of members who are on step aside to an ambiguous set of guidelines, which would probably be a better pill to swallow for the party. But what could be the possibility that what has happened here was not that there was any confusion, the members were not confused perhaps in Mpumalanga, but were openly defying that resolution which they voted for? Because then that would open an even bigger conversation within the ANC that perhaps this broad church of yours that you have spoken of so highly doesn't benefit you anymore. You cannot have people from different persuasions within this one political party, and perhaps lending credence to what Thabo Mbeki has said, that maybe you need to start vetting. You don't share the same views.
Yeah, your angle is I agree with your angle. I think by now most of us have come to the conclusion that in the ANC we have incompatible factions, totally incompatible. When Nyawose lost to Sandile Swana in eThekwini, he said the truth has come out. And I think whatever he may have meant, but to me it means that the true feelings of the members on the ground and how the processes allow a person like Sandile Swana to mobilize them, because it's fiction to say that those people ended up voting for Sandile without her doing anything. So there must have been massive underground activity that Sandile conducted to win that election over there. So there are people who just don't believe in this resolution, who don't believe in any renewal, and in fact they believe the renewal is an error in the ANC.
So then is it to the benefit of the ANC to just confine themselves to the easier version that no, they were just confused with the guidelines here? It was nothing, we're all in agreement, we want to renew. Is it really to their benefit to deal with the easier option of what exactly happened in Mpumalanga and then went on to happen in eThekwini?
You must remember that the ANC is facing a very difficult process. On the one side, they want to build unity inside the ANC and maximize unity. On the other hand, they want renewal, which calls for ejection of people, the expulsion actually of people from power who are not in agreement with this renewal. So there will be a long process of trying to negotiate and create friendship and to nadereng and all those types of things. With President Cyril Ramaphosa, the likes of Gwede Mantashe and so on being present in that top six, you are more likely to see a unifying type, renewal type of ANC that is on both sides of the equation.
And then just to take you back to your argument that perhaps there is a need for some sort of clarity as to the minimum that would warrant you stepping aside. I see there is clearly a greater conversation that could be had given the Zondo Commission and some of those recommendations, good and well. As it stands though now, it's only those that have been criminally charged that would possibly be asked to step aside. Just looking at that narrow or that minimum requirement of being criminally charged, was it honestly wise to have their policy attached to a process they're not in control of? And process not in control of, I'm talking about the courts, because the court roll is always full. So they can never really decide when a matter can be brought to finality and for them to handle their matters within the political party. Was it wise for them to align it to such a process when they have no control of the courts?
Yes. Your question is relevant because, to be totally honest, if you read the ANC constitution, had they handled this entire matter without reference to the courts, they probably would have done a better job. So that has been my view from the start, and it remains my view, that there is nothing that this resolution brings that is not already catered for in the constitution. And you need to bring people through the proper disciplinary processes of the ANC and suspend them in their offices and in their membership based on the constitution of the ANC. Because even the best lawyers will tell you that relying on the courts is a gamble. You never know what's going to happen next in the courts.
And you raise a valid point. Their constitution makes provision for members that have brought the party into disrepute. It's really interesting. I actually must have them yet again to find out why I decide to attach their processes to the courts, because it's really unpredictable. But now beyond this, when you look at those refined guidelines, it now says there is an option for the members to actually apply to have their matter reviewed periodically, being a year in this instance. Again, if you've got your court case running for 3 years, are you really going to apply every year if nothing has changed? You won't apply for a review, would you?
Yeah, I think this question you are asking, it speaks exactly to the bigger question you asked earlier. Because some of these prosecutors, they are also lawyers, by the way, and they've got to be careful, particularly in a criminal case. A criminal case is the most difficult case you can take to court because of the judges have got extraordinary demands on the prosecution to prove their case. So the prosecutors are looking for more evidence. The thing drags for 4 years before it actually becomes a proper court case that is being heard. And then you've got to keep applying. Meantime, your political competitors are making capitals whilst we are still suspended, temporarily suspended for 4 years. A whole term of office is lost on a process that is going nowhere. And those are the processes that are very controversial right now in how the ANC is handling this matter.
Mr. Swana, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us. That's political analyst Sandile Swana, just sharing us some of the issues now that are coming up when we hear of branch members who could possibly be looking to ventilate the step-aside policy or its guidelines further at the policy conference. To this now.